And good evening, and welcome to a very special edition of the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and it's Sunday night, but there were so many comics that came out this week. I decided to break this week's edition into two parts. Second one will be airing tomorrow night, but first we're going to start with tonight's part one of New Comics, bitches! So, we are going to cover just Marvel in this edition, because lots of Marvel, lots of big stuff. And there's some really good stuff this week. And there's some really, really, really awful stuff this week. And we are going to sort through that together. And we're going to start, naturally, with the thing that was the biggest event and also the most awful. And that, of course, is Avengers vs. X-Men number 11. Now, basically, the issue... Okay. You could almost read just about everything that I'm going to say if you go to comicsalliance.com. They do when every subsequent issue comes out, they put out a kind of a very long kind of scorecard-like review of each issue of Avengers vs. X-Men, and it's awesome. It's hilarious. They hate it. The disdain that they have for this comic is so obvious, and it's so wonderful. This one just goes totally off the fucking rails, though. I mean, I don't think an issue's been this bad probably since the first issue. I'm not talking about the Zero issue either. I'm talking about the very first issue. Because basically, okay, this is now the penultimate issue of this event comic, in which the first couple of pages, the first 2 pages, basically, we have Captain America speechifying about how bad he's talking to someone, and they're in the middle of the desert, whatever, with all these cliff faces and everything, and thus the thing around them, and Cap is talking to someone. We don't know who it is, but he's talking about how Scott Summers is completely they've gone around the bend. He's spearheading this initiative to essentially save the world, but of course they just can't trust him because he's got that pesky old Phoenix Force inside of him, and all of them essentially have just gone berserk. They're all mad with power. They're creating these horrific things, and they're just acting the dick. And that's basically kind of the arc in which our villains have been caught up in this whole time, is that these noble X-Men start out with these noble intentions, are actually doing noble things, probably better things than the Avengers have done for the world in a really long time, as a group, and saying, okay, well, we need to shut it down because this is just getting too far. Because obviously, I mean, it's literally like Scott Summers, in their eyes, in the hero's eyes, he's like the equivalent of a rat, and they are a stick that just is constantly poking the rat until the rat essentially decides to lash out, which has basically been the entire thing. It's been the entire argument of AVX, is that it's been, what, you guys are completely, you X-Men are completely wrong about the way to handle this Phoenix Force. You need our help. We're taking hope away, literally and figuratively. And that's it. You know, no quarter given, no quarter asked. So then we finally see who Cap has been talking to this whole time, and it's the Hulk. And he announces that he will join with the Avengers and he will smash for them. So it's taken them 11 issues, and all the shit that's gone, I mean, like the flooding of Wakanda by Namor, and all this stuff to bring in the heaviest hitter in the Marvel Universe. And then we see Rogue kind of walking through the wherever, in this, it's in tall grass and everything like that, and she's got the yawls and everything like that. Bendis is giving her like 80s treatment of her method of speech, and there's Professor Xavier, and he's there basically saying, she's saying, I've been wrong, siding with the X-Men, wrong siding with the mutants. So it's time for me to come in. And here's, Xavier saying, yes, child, come on in, bring all your friends with you who have been, unjustly held by these Phoenix Force twats. And, so all of the X-Men, with the exception of Scott and Emma, come on over to the Avengers. So basically, you have... It's no longer Avengers versus X-Men. It is now Avengers versus X-Man, really. It's, Avengers and X-Men versus 2 X-Men. And, of course, by the end of this issue, we're only going to have 1 X-Man that they're going to be fighting. So... Then, we have, Emma and Scott, they're talking about, Emma's saying, about how they're going to make over the world, and, Scott is saying, no, we're not going to do that, we're not going to cleanse the earth or anything like that and start from scratch. We're going to make people, understand us, we're going to make people's lives better, and we're going to use our power to do that, but still in this apparently dickish way. And that's when the Avengers attack. So then, Olivier Coipel's art is actually really good in this issue. It's the only redeeming value of this whole issue. Bendis' dialogue is, just terrifically awful. It astounds me, really, because it's like, this is a guy who, he's one of the premier writers in the Marvel Universe. He's, with all the titles that he's done, all the really, really good work that he's putting, in on, Ultimate Spider-Man, the really good work that he's putting in on Spider-Men, the really good work he's putting in on New Avengers. It's like, none of this matters in this series. It's like, okay, now Cyclops will do this, and Captain America will say this. He says keep the fight focused on Frost and Summers, because they're the only 2 bad guys. That's it. I forgot a really kind of just really awful and strange and stupid thing that this whole thing should have been building up towards. Here we finally have Havoc. Havoc is now finally alongside the Avengers. And Havoc, is another one of my favorite X-Men. I love him. The fact that he and Scott are brothers. You think this would be... You think he would have a much bigger role to play in this, because he's Scott's brother. But there's a moment that is so insane, where it's a panel in which Iceman, Bobby, is basically saying to Professor X, you know, it's like, I love Scott like he's my own brother. And right there, in the frame, in the same frame, is Alex Summers. And he's just kind of looking on, and yeah, everything's cool, you know. I mean, I love him like he is my brother, because he actually is my brother. But no, I'm gonna let Bobby do all the talking here, because, you know, Bobby's got all the big words to say right now, because, you know, they're really building his character up. I mean, Havoc, who is going to be, you know, he's going to be part of the Uncanny Avengers coming in a month or whatever it is. And he has literally nothing to say, nothing to do in this issue. And it was really just insulting to his character, I thought. It was just terrible. Anyway, so there's this moment where Storm says, you know, there's something I've always wanted to say to you, Emma. And then she blasts Emma with the lightning and whatever, but doesn't say anything. But there's this, the sound effect is cracka. And I don't, is Storm calling Emma a cracker? You know, again, that's from the, I would never have noticed that if I hadn't read the Comics Alliance piece, but to me, actually, it was really funny when I reread it, because yes, I actually read this fucking thing twice. And so, you know, and Charles is, you know, he's screaming at Scott's like, you know, I love you, you know, don't do any of this crap. And you know, and then Cyclops is like, you know, you of all people should understand, you know, what I'm trying to do here. And he's like, well, if you're not gonna, you know, I'm not asking you anymore, I'm gonna make you do it. And he's, you know, giving him the whole telepathic treatment there. You know, there's a moment where basically, you know, Scott seems to be in some trouble, and just out of nowhere, here comes one of Hawkeye's arrows, hits him right in the back of the neck, and the sound effect is literally the word Chuck. Chuck. It doesn't do anything to him, of course, but I just love I love the idea that, you know, Hawkeye, that's what he does. He shoots arrows, and he just shot an arrow into the back of Cyclops' neck, the Phoenix-powered Cyclops. So, I mean, just the level of absurdity. I mean, it's almost like if this weren't like self-parody, or if it were self-parody, this would be a billion times better. But it's not. I mean, they're playing it, you know, it's obviously being played totally straight. And then we have the moment where, you know, Professor X, you know, he's there with Scott, and he's, you know, in his suit and everything like that. He's like, you know, no more. And then Scott's like, you're not my father. And, you know, and then Charles says, okay, this is over. And Scott says, you're right. And then something happens. Scott does something. Nothing, not like a big optic blast through his chest or anything like that, or, you know, leaving him, like, I mean, like blowing all the flesh off of his body, and it's just nothing left but a skeleton. But it's like he just seems to get hit by this, like, concussive wave or something like that. And, you know, Hope screams, no! And apparently Professor Xavier is dead. That has killed him. Whatever just happened, it's not a big moment where he makes this big grand sacrifice in order to stop Scott. It is literally, you know, fuck you, Dad. Fuck you too, kid. You know, nothing cool, no cool moment in which, like I said, I mean, where it's just, you know, he's just this burnt out husk of nothing, or, you know, like I said, like a optic blast through his, you know, chest, or blows his head off or something like that. It's just like, it's literally like he just, it almost just like I mean, that's it. That is Charles Xavier's grand sacrifice. And, you know, the people at Marvel are talking about this like it's, you know, it's like the sacrifice of Christ or something like that. And it's like, this is the stupidest fucking thing ever. I mean, it's the stupidest way to kill this guy off. I mean, it's literally, it's like each event comic that they do, they just have the one death that's supposed to change everything. And it's like, in Fear itself, they killed Thor, and it was so fucking stupid. And, I mean, it's like, this has that same level of just stupidity, where it's just like, this doesn't matter. What are you kidding? This is nothing. I mean, nothing significant here happens. It's not a cool death. It's not a righteous death. It's not, you know, anything that resembles something that should come out of an event comic. It's literally just like, oh, you know, and... Okay, so I mean, there are so many problems with this issue. I mean, it's hard to just pick on one thing, but wasn't Hope supposed to be like the kind of messianic figure here? I mean, wouldn't it make sense? I mean, is she going to step up in the next issue? Because obviously we've seen some of the solicits, and we've seen the, you know, the just like the unconscious body of Scott Summers there lying on the ground and everything like that. And it's like, okay. Because, you know, Scott basically, you know, he takes Emma's power. You know, I forgot to tell you that part. And then it's the moment, you know, and then even Beast has this moment where it's like, why did he just say that? It's literally like, why did Bendis write this line of dialogue where Beast says, you know, it's finally happened. The worst we've, you know, the thing we feared is happening, or something to that effect. I'm, you know, paraphrasing. But of course, you know, and Scott is, you know, I am fire and life incarnate. So basically, Scott has become Dark Phoenix. But he's not really Dark Phoenix because he's actually really kind of always been. I mean, they've been, you know, it's not like the whole kind of Dark Phoenix saga of the Claremont Byrne years where, I'm just talking about just Phoenix and then Dark Phoenix. It's not like there's this, you know, on a dime type of change that actually makes more sense. But it's just, you know, Scott is just being more and more dickish, and, you know, it's just like they're determined to basically tear down everything that's all of the goodwill that they've done, all the cool shit that they've done with Cyclops over the last decade is basically being undone completely in this comic. He's just, you know, he's going to be a total pariah of the, you know, of the mutant community from here on out. Essentially, you know, he's the, you know, he would be like the new Magneto. And I mean, like I said, there's not a story beat in this whole issue that works. Nothing works. It's completely and utterly fucking ridiculous. It is absolute garbage. And I give it a 1.5 out of 5 because Coipel's art is really quite good. But that's its only saving grace. Because it's a terrible, terrible, terrible issue of comics. And it's really sad. I mean, it's just, I mean, they've got their big brains working on the story. I mean, it's like they can't come up with anything better than this. I mean, come on, man. I mean, this is just, it's so wrong. So, but for Avengers vs. X-Men number 11, 1.5 out of 5 at best. At best. So we're going to stay in mutant territory with our other two tie-ins to, or two other mutant title tie-ins to AVX. And the first one we're going to talk about is Uncanny X-Men number 18. Now, basically what we have here, we have a really interesting and really cool beat between Cyclops and Magic. Where basically, you know, Colossus, he's really, I mean, he's really in a dark, he's in a very dark place, and he, you know, he regrets everything that he was doing while he was, you know, powered by this Phoenix Force. And Magic is basically saying, you know what, big brother, it's time that you learned a little bit about, you know, the bad side of who you are, because, you know. And, you know, he actually, you know, because she's just, I mean, she's really fucking with his head. And because, you know, she's essentially, she's like gone crazy. And he even says that, you're insane. And she's like, thank you. You finally understand now. And so, you know, I mean, everything with, you know, because this opens up with their, you know, their press agent and everything like that, trying to put a spin on this, you know, little dialogue there. And we have, you know, basically Scott and Emma having this meal together, where they're, you know, it's a, you know, nice steak, and apparently the sauce that they're using is human blood. Yes, they are dining on human blood, Scott and Emma are, because Emma found basically a cannibal serial killer who apparently had a great recipe for using a sauce that's made with human blood. Of course, she, you know, fried his brain, but, you know, then they're enjoying this meal, and as it so happens, it is merely a psychic meal. And because the fight that is in, because all of these events, they take place after AVX-11, and or you know, you're supposed to read that first, and then, you know, because this is really focused on tying in to that arc. So we have, you know, they're having this meal while they're fighting in their brains, and you know, things start to go shitty. And that's when basically Emma starts to talk about the affair that she wanted to have with Namor, and that's really where Scott, again acting the prick, he you know, says, "What, Emma? You know what? This is you know, I kind of don't need you around right now." And he kind of like blinks her out, and, you know, ingests, you know, this fiery cup, and he drinks it up, and he's like, "I am fire and life incarnate." And, you know, so we have basically the, you know, this, you know, kind of running, intersecting with AVX-11. I will give props to Kieran Gillen for trying to tell, if they had really focused a lot more on the actual, on the more interesting part of this book, which is the Colossus and Magic segment, on which the two, you know, they go so far off the rails with each other that they end up fighting each other. That would have been so much more interesting and so much more dynamic and a lot more emotional than, again, dipping into the AVX well, and having this whole thing going on while, you know, basically getting, you know, Scott and Emma's point of view as they're fighting. And that's where the book starts to fail, and kind of collapse upon itself. You know, to be fair, I give it a 3. I give it a 3 out of 5, because, like I said, the Colossus and Magic stuff is really interesting, and it is really emotional. It is really highly charged. But like I said, I mean, once it gets into Scott and Emma, it loses all of its momentum. So now on to Wolverine and the X-Men, which, while carrying the banner of AVX, does not actually really have that much to do with AVX, because we have, you know, I call this issue Sizzle Straw, Sentinels, and Hellfire. That's what I call it. So you have you know, all of the children of the Hellfire Club, because what we're learning here is basically about kind of the origin of Cade Kilgore and how he came to be. Well, I mean, he was basically born a psychopath, and you know, with membership into the Hellfire Club, and you know, basically how he turns everybody against his father. You know, how his father kills his mother. And you know how when he is confronted by when he's selling these, you know, basically he's selling these Sentinels to the highest bidders, and here comes the Phoenix Force 5 when there were still 5 of them, and they come in, and you know, and Scott is actually saying things like, you know, maybe the world would be better off without you, and Cade has the best sick burn right back at his face. It's like, you know, well said, Scotty. You're starting to sound like a true fascist. You keep this up, I might actually start to like you. And it was just like, yes, okay, that's a nice sick burn there for Cade. Points go into his column for that one. And then so basically, you know, what they do is they put an 11-year-old kid in Gen Pop at Rikers Island, which I don't see how that could ever happen in any kind of real world, or even in this fictional world scenario where you could actually put, you know, an 11-year-old kid into, you know, general population at one of the worst prisons in the country. But somehow the X-Men, they make that, you know, the Phoenix Force 5, they make that happen. And, you know, basically Cade goes to show that, you know, money ultimately is the alpha dog. And yeah, they'll provide him the ability to become the alpha dog. And that's where we really start to get into his past. You know, we see him from his, you know, very early years. You know, he's chasing butterflies and sticking them with stuff. And, you know, we get the sense that he's already an evil little fuck. And there are some, admittedly, there's some really fun, really funny moments, some really funny scenes, sequences. Of course, the girl, I can never remember her name, but she has the best fucking dialogue because she's so insane. But ultimately, this book, I think it just, it didn't give me the satisfaction that I wanted from it, because I think this went too far away into the mind of a villain. That is, he's fun, but he's not really that, he's not particularly charismatic. You know, he's just, you know, he's got a lot of money, and he's obviously totally fucked in the head. So, you know, despite the fact that, you know, Chris Bachalo does a terrific job on art in this issue. I mean, everything, you know, it you know, and Jason Aaron, you know, writes a great script. I mean, the story beats move along very nicely, and but it just didn't give me the kind of, you know, gut punch that I would want from a book that where it allows us to really see into the mind of, you know, this, you know, somewhat major villain now. And because I think it is just because he's a kid. And I think that Jason Aaron decided that he was going to have more fun with this than kind of go maybe into a more serious route. So it's, you know, it's fun. It's a good read. I have nothing against it as a whole, but just, you know, it left me wanting. So it left me wanting a little bit more, you know, not necessarily to go darker, but to go a little bit deeper, I guess. But again, he is only a kid, so maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe this deserves, I give it a 4 out of 5, a very solid 4 out of 5. It is really good. It is really fun. But again, it didn't have the impact that I felt that it should have. So I think that would have worked more in its favor. So that's me. So now something, thankfully, that is very far separated from all of the AVX garbage, but is still mutant related, is Ultimate X-Men number 16. And here we have basically, Kitty and her merry, her not so merry little band have, they've met Nick Fury, and they met up with Paige Guthrie, aka Husk. And they are kind of observing the not concentration camp. I mean, basically that's what everybody calls it, but that's not what they call it. They don't call it a concentration camp because the mutants there, they aren't working. They're not being summarily being put to death. At least not that I could really tell. They're just kind of there. And and the Nimrods there are there to keep them down. And basically, this is Kitty learning about how to be a real leader, to be a revolutionary, basically, and that's the direction that Nick Fury is actually pushing her in, because he says, we've gone through this, we at Shield have gone through this a lot, where we've fought these little upstart revolutionaries, but we never won because you have these charismatic leaders, and you, young miss, are that kind of leader. So it doesn't matter if you have the more guns, doesn't matter if you have the better tech or anything like that. As long as you have the charisma that's necessary, you're going to help win this war. But what's interesting, I'll get to that in a minute. And so, she's kind of scoping things out with the, with Husk, the way into the camp, and Husk, we're not quite sure about, because she seems a little bit too perfect. So a lot of people have picked up on this already that I've seen. That she does, her presence here seems a little bit too perfect, in the sense that she is, she seems too eager to help. She has so much information, and just is not sure if we can trust her. But they go into the camps, the various, Rogue and Kitty and Iceman and Jimmy. And Jimmy's kind of getting dumped on this issue a little bit. But basically, none of these mutants, they don't have any will to fight back. Nothing. They got nothing left. Interestingly enough, or bizarrely enough, Rogue is kind of walking through the halls, and she sees this one young mutant, who basically, she feels this kind of attraction to. I don't know why, because he's kind of got a shaved head, and he's got purple hair up here. And, he's basically saying, it's cool, you can touch me, you don't have to worry about it. And so she gives him a big kiss, and the only thing that I'm taking away from this, really, is that, is this the Ultimate Universe's version of Quentin Quire? Because if it is, that's really cool. I think it almost has to be. I think that would have to be. Anyway, but so Kitty and Nick basically go out to show that these, that this one mutant and this human can work together and take down some Nimrods. And they go out, and 2 Nimrods incoming. Kitty's got her, she's got her assault rifle. Nick's got a bazooka. 2 Nimrods come at him, and they just let fly. And Nick bags one, Kitty bags one, and she's giving the orders. Nick is deferring to her orders. And then she goes into the camp and basically says, look, I'm a tourist here. I've never been here before. You people, you all live here, and I've taken down 2 Sentinels. What have you done? You know, you have to fight back. You have to stand up with us, and you have to fight back, because I don't see a bunch of prisoners here. I see an army. And this is exactly what Nick is talking about. That, you know, she has the charisma to be this leader that they need, to be the leader that they, the mutants, need in order to figure this out. But, you know, because they, you know, but there's these kind of cryptic moments that Husk has with Kitty when they're alone together, where they're talking about that Stryker is still alive. Well, how can that be? Because Stryker is very much dead. Kitty killed her, and that's what started this whole, he uploaded his consciousness into all of the Nimrods and all the Sentinels. And then we get kind of the big reveal at the end of the issue, where, yeah, Stryker is dead, but he does continue to live in a very specific way. And that was a really cool moment, it's a really nice reveal. But the thing that got me the most, the thing that hit me like a ton of bricks in this issue, which is why this issue was so terrific, it was absolutely, it was great, from, if only for this moment, is that while Nick is kind of speechifying about, all the things that, they have to do in order to get things back to normal and to win, Kitty's inner monologue is going on, and she's kind of interpreting the way that she's hearing things that Nick is saying. And basically what Nick is talking about as far as, returning things to normal, Kitty's thinking to herself, he's not, he's talking about America, but that's not what I'm here fighting for. I'm fighting for mutant kind. And that was, it's literally the whole idea of Divided We Fall, and the whole idea that Brian Wood has taken, is just ripped, and ran with as far as Ultimate X-Men is concerned, is that they basically have that whole new mission statement. They have, a whole new lead, they have a whole new idea of where they're going from here. And they have this, this kind of new manifesto that is basically being presented by Kitty, that she is, she's fighting for a reason that Nick doesn't understand. Because while he's, while he lives in the United States and everything, all the Southwest is segmented from the United States or seceded, she's not there to fight to make the country a better place. She's there to fight so that mutants are safer, that mutants will live and they will continue to exist. And so that to me was just, it was the encapsulation of everything that has made this run by Wood so strong and so almost ferocious in its work, and what has just given this book just this major infusion of energy and momentum and everything that sadly Nick Spencer's run was sorely lacking in. So this is absolute, this is a very, very, very solid 4.5 out of 5. Leaning a little bit more towards 5. This is definitely one of the picks of the week for me. At least from Marvel. Because I am, like I said, segmenting these. So then we have, now we're delving into, well, what I call Captain America-ish territory. Or Avengers territory. And we're going to start talking about New Avengers number 30. Again, this is Bendis and Mike Deodato. And it is basically, this issue is, again, post AVX 11. And so we have Daredevil, Luke Cage, Mockingbird, and The Thing are driving Emma, who is now their prisoner, driving her to prison, detention, whatever. They're going, she's under arrest. She's being taken into custody by these four. Then suddenly they are under attack. Their convoy is under attack by purifiers. The ultra-religious, mutant-hating purifiers. And so, but this whole thing begins with this conversation between Daredevil and Luke about Luke thinking about leaving. Because, his baby, his wife, all of these other factors that are in his life that are more than just him being a superhero, and he's not really paying any attention to them. He's off about to get himself killed for, a cause that is not really his, even though he leads the New Avengers. So, once they get involved in this, and there's some really nice moments, especially with Daredevil versus the Purifiers, because of course they're quoting scripture, and they're quoting things about abomination and so on and so forth, and and good old Hornhead, he's saying you're not even getting the you're not even finishing the quote and everything like that, because Daredevil, Catholic soldier, he knows his Bible. Just a big bag of boulders of Catholic guilt that he almost always carries, at least until recently, where he's under the auspices of Mark Waid in his own book. But you have this big fight scene between Thing and Mockingbird and Dee Dee and Luke. And Luke is just he's kind of getting pounded in this one moment, and we see kind of flashes of what he's thinking of in his mind. He's seeing his wife, he's seeing his child, he's seeing his life, and he just keeps getting blasted by this one purifier, and it's just like, enough, and he just starts knocking the shit out of these guys. Thing is not, he's not a pushover, and so he's doing a lot of the, literally heavy lifting. And then once they, and there's, a great moment where, Daryl flips, he flicks the billy club, hits one purifier, hits another purifier, and then clocks Emma on the head. Just like, sorry, we're going to protect you, but you're still under arrest, little missy. And the decision that Luke makes is far and away so much more important than anything that happened, and it is more emotional, and is going to have probably more repercussions from an actual emotional standpoint than the death of Charles Xavier, and that of course is his decision to leave the Avengers. And that was it was a really significant moment, and it's, because it's coming out in this week of this huge death, nobody gives a shit, because it doesn't matter, because it's just Luke Cage. So it was just, to me, it was just like, really? This needed to be treated with more respect, and I think a lot of people just kind of overlooked this. On all the sites that I went to, I didn't see one review of this book. On all the websites I went to, anyway. I did see one. I think I saw one on Comic Book Resources, but I didn't read it because they gave it like 2.5 stars. I'm like, fuck you. This is a 4.5 out of 5, absolutely. Not only is Bendis' writing really sharp in this issue, but Mike Deodato's art, it's so gorgeous. And it sets a precedent pretty much for all of the other books, whoever they've got on them, as far as the Avengers books. How powerful just, the narrative of the art can be, and how necessary it is to have really terrific art. And Deodato, apart from when somebody else is doing his inking for him, he knocks it out of the park every time. His work is just fantastic. So, again, it just helps to enhance this book. And so 4.5 out of 5, absolutely, for New Avengers number 30. Now moving on to the kind of Captain America-ish books, and we start with Captain America number 16. Now this is something, for the last couple of issues I've been screaming about, because it's been so god awful, because it's being co-written by Cullen Bunn, and he doesn't seem to have a real handle on this character, and just nothing seemed to be working. It's just a lot of kind of Ed Brubaker's kind of very liberal agenda starting to seep through, and this is basically kind of his assault on Fox and people like Glenn Beck and so on and so forth, that they're like brainwashing America and so on and so forth. But this is just taking this to the comic book equivalent of that, is that they literally are brainwashing America. Basically, as they study the effects of what's going on here, is that the effects are very similar to that of a mad bomb, which of course we saw in the previous arc of this, or a previous arc of this, where they are always being done by Alan Davis, and the art is marginally better in this issue. It's not quite as repugnant. And the book itself does gain a little bit more momentum, and that, of course, is helped by the fact that it is concluding next issue. So this is a penultimate issue. This is the penultimate issue for Ed Brubaker on this title, because he's leaving after the next one. And we've got Cap and Diamondback, still kind of hanging around there, almost having this kind of special moment. Which seemed, it's perfectly in character with Diamondback, which is one of the things that I liked about it, is that they really did, by keeping her around, they are kind of giving a bit of a romantic foil to, for Sharon Carter, because Diamondback is very much, still has the hots for Cap, and even she knows that. But she knows that she can't compete again with Sharon Carter, because that's the love of Cap's life. And so Cap goes off on his mission with some S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel to basically, stop what's going on with the discordance and, stop the signal and everything like that. But they trace the signal's origin to a satellite in space, and that's where Sharon and Dum Dum go. And they fly up to the satellite, they board it, they get on board, they're starting to go around, see if they can cut out the signal, and here he comes, Baron Zemo. And so it is Sharon versus Zemo in space. And at the very end of the book, you still have Falcon on the ground, and all hell is breaking loose. People are, gun owners are just giving away free guns. Kids are picking up, little kids who are watching TV. They're picking up baseball bats, and they're picking up, golf clubs and everything like that. They're just going to beat the shit out of anything and anybody. I mean, it's just all fucking hell is breaking loose. And you have some members of the Avengers are trying to stop certain things. You've got crazed militant. Animal lovers, they're trying, they're setting all these animals free and so on and so forth. And it's like, where's the National Guard? Where's the Army? Where's the Navy? Where's the Air Force? Where's the Marines? Where is anybody in this? Trying to, where's the police? Where's the fire department? Where's the fucking, Salvation Army? Where are all the people that should be protecting them other than Captain America? It's again, huge leaps of logic are required to even get into this. So, but I will give it some props, is that it does have, it has a setup to a really interesting finale. Of course, this is like the absolute worst way for Ed Brubaker to be leaving this book, because it's such an, just like I said, just from a logic standpoint, this is an awful book right now, and Cullen Bunn certainly is not making anything any better. Scott Eaton's art, whoever, and Damien, Sleepy Reader, he had made a really interesting point the last time that I reviewed this book, is that Scott Eaton's art is normally pretty good, but he's got, I don't remember who he's got inking for him right now, and the coloring is off. Coloring's terrible. And so, I mean, that has a lot to do with the art kind of looking like shit. It's, you know, it's like it's almost like Scott Eaton's just, he's not even doing pencils, he's just kind of doing breakdowns, and someone else is just kind of filling in this very block-like art, and it looks terrible. Bad art still, but it's gotten a little bit better. It's tweaked a little bit. So this was, at best, a 3 out of 5. More kind of towards 2.5, because again, there are these massive leaps of logic that you have to take in order to continue to follow the story. So anyway, moving on. Just one that I'm going to just touch on real briefly here, and that is Captain America and Black Widow, number 636. I got this issue merely for the fact that Francesco Francavilla was doing the art. I know that Colin Bunn's writing it. I didn't like what he was doing with Captain America and Hawkeye. That was very substandard. But I picked it up because I knew, since Francavilla was going to be doing all of the art on this, including the coloring, it was going to look absolutely stunning, and it does. It is an absolutely beautiful comic to look at. Composition, color, you know, all the strong uses of blacks and reds and blues. You know, it's very, very, very strong, and it's amazing what Francesco Francavilla can do with a page of comics. I think he was underutilized when he was working with Brubaker and Asmus on Captain America and Bucky, and I think right now this is really, you know, him. You know, this is his showcase. This is his book. Forget the fact that Colin Bunn's writing it. Forget the fact that it's about basically this mysterious woman who is, you know, kind of, I don't know if she's like an alien or a clone or something. I didn't really understand it because I haven't been following this book, but essentially, apparently, this is kind of carrying over from maybe a previous arc. But we've got this one woman who is, you know, who's being pursued in like all of her lives, all of her incarnations by Black Widow, and in this one is actually kind of almost being protected by Captain America. And that's where, you know, these two forces meet at the end, is that, you know, Widow is taking out all of these people, you know, and this woman, and Cap's just kind of like stunned. It's like, what are you doing, Tasha? But I mean, I give this a 3.5 out of 5 merely because it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous to look at. You know, he does, you know, Francavilla just does an amazing work. Just thumbs up still. Even if it is a little bit more style over substance, but when it's this stylish, you can almost kind of ignore it. But there is some substance in it. I thought it was an interesting read. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really think, oh, this is something I really want to keep following. No, I'm going to keep getting it because Francavilla is on art. Winter Soldier number 10. So here we have another, a very minor event, but ultimately has more human feeling and emotion towards it, and that is the death of someone who's also been around since the 60s, and that's the erstwhile character of Jasper Sitwell. In the previous issue, as we find out, was murdered by Black Widow, or he sacrificed his life to save Nick Fury. Because, you know, as I said in my review of the last issue, basically, you know, everybody thinks that everything's okay because it seemed like Natasha kind of broke out of it, you know, her conditioning, but it was just, you know, part one of Leo's Novikov's plan, which is to basically really, really, really fuck up Bucky Barnes' life. And so we have to deal with that death. And thankfully it's not terribly shortchanged. There is some pretty significant respect that is paid to Jasper. And then we have, you know, the real, you know, the second phase, as we see, of the Red Room scientists, you know, his reconditioning of Black Widow, which again is just designed to absolutely fucking turn, you know, twist the knife in Bucky Barnes' guts. And that is, as we find, is he has removed all memories of them, of Natasha and Bucky ever being together, of ever being in love. And of course, I mean, that's just, you know, yeah, Jasper Sitwell is dead and she killed him, and she's going to feel really, really shitty about that once she's restored to normal. But the fact that they've actually erased just that part of her life that they were together is even, you know, it's just an even more grievous wound to Bucky. And, you know, I mean, you just gotta feel bad for this guy at this point in time. I mean, he's just getting shit on, you know, throughout this whole series, left and right. And, you know, so you got, I mean, and this, you know, and Leo, he's a real bastard. I mean, this guy is a king motherfucker right now. He is a real asshole. But that's exactly what he should be, though. I mean, you know, he's a great villain. Because he's knowing exactly how to strike at Bucky, how to make him despair. And, you know, by killing Fred Davis, and, you know, now with kidnapping Widow, and now that she's killed, Jasper Sitwell, it's just terrible. It's terrible stuff. But I mean, not in a terrible comic read way. But we got, you know, Hawkeye and Wolverine and Cap show up, basically saying, look, kid, you're not alone anymore right now. We're going to fight with you. And, you know, Hawkeye has a little bit of a quip, because this is the first time that Wolverine and Hawkeye have discovered that Bucky is actually still alive. And that he didn't die during Fear itself. And, you know, and Clint, you know, he has a little bit of a quip. Wolverine, all business, he's like, I'm not here, you know, for you, really, kid. You know, and I thought I smelled an LMD when they were putting that coffin in the ground. But, you know, I'm here for Natalia, excuse me, because they have a past together as well. So this is what this book is building towards right now, is them finding Natasha and Leo so they could save Natasha, take out Leo, whatever they need to do. But now he's, you know, I mean, it's not just Bucky alone. He is, you know, he's got a little help from his friends here. And so, I mean, just the narrative of this story is so strong. Got Butch Guice on art, whose art has improved tremendously, leaps and bounds, since when I first started looking at his stuff. I do kind of miss Michael Lark, but I mean, Guice has really stepped in to get this kind of back, you know, to get this, you know, he has such an interesting, very gritty style. It's just terrific. So this was, again, another 4.5 out of 5. Terrific read. Excellent book, really great art. Just, you know, this is Brubaker doing what he does best in the Marvel Universe, which is doing really serious, you know, like spy shit. Great stuff. And we're going to wrap this up with Scarlet Spider #9. Because, you know, my picks, my real kind of like picks of the week will be coming tomorrow. I just wanted to get all the Marvel stuff out of the way because there's so much that I read this week. Scarlet Spider #9. Again, we have Chris Yost and Koi Pham doing just another really solid, entertaining, strong read as Scarlet Spider teams up with the Rangers, the former Initiative group from Texas, to stop this kind of energy monster that Roxxon has unleashed. And we get a little bit of a backstory on this creature, and we get the the head of Roxxon, the bad guy, and the crazy daughter and everything like that, who was trying to kill him, or not kill him, but just kind of make him pay for what they've been doing. And this all kind of comes to a head, and the team learns to work together, and lo and behold, they do succeed. And of course, it's kind of at the cost of the Roxxon CEO's kind of, not his life, but certainly probably his mind. And it's just some really terrific action beats, some really nice some really nice character moments, as far as especially with Kane. It's like, I'm going to kill Peter Parker. Everybody who's made me feel like I need to be responsible, I want to kill them. Because it's like you kind of forced me to be a hero here. And nobody forced you, Kane. Nobody forced you into anything. This is you. This is all you now. So I mean, just watching this progression, this evolution of Kane as a character, is tremendously entertaining for the first part of it, and the second part of it is that he still wants to resist being the bad guy, being the good guy. He doesn't want to be the hero, but he keeps ending up being the hero. So 4 out of 5 for Scarlet Spider. It's just, like I said, it's a smart, fun, entertaining, very well-paced read. It's nothing great. I don't think this book will ever be great, but it will always be really good and very solid and a good read, and it's worth the money. So I mean, those of you who haven't been reading it, I know the first trade's coming out relatively soon, I believe, and I definitely think that you should check it out because it's a good book. So anyway, so that's it for tonight's installment, the first installment of New Comics, bitches! So tomorrow night, we'll be back with DC, the Independents, and the book of the week. Because there is one absolute pick of the week this week. And you might be surprised. So, again, this is me, James Donnelly, from the Shadow Gallery, saying goodnight. There's Scotty in the background. So, anyway, James Donnelly, Shadow Gallery. Comment, thumb it up, thumb it down. You're new here, subscribe, welcome, hi. And that's it. So, James Donnelly, Shadow Gallery, always reminding you to stay in the shadows.